What we are seeing right now is something that is super rare and hasn't happened inside of the past several years. And so, of course, I want to talk to you about what that is and what I personally am doing right now to make sure that I'm prepared for any outcome. Because right now, the outcomes seem to be more variable than ever before, at least as I've said, inside the past several years. So I'm going to show you what we're talking about today, and then we'll go through what I'm doing to prepare for it. Starting off, though, I want to show you kind of what we're seeing from a market overview perspective. Here we can see on the RSI heat map, we are sitting at an average of 50.73, which is of course a very it's basically completely in the middle, right? There's no real leverage on one direction or the other in terms of indicating where price could be going next. We are also seeing the same exact thing here on the crypto fear and greed index, with the fear and greed index showing an exact central 50, meaning that there's no real bias towards fear, there's no real bias towards greed. We also can look at the exchange liquidation map, and we can see here that it's basically completely balanced from one side to the other on the 1 day as well as the 7 day. So this is something that, again, like even price from like an options perspective is or a futures perspective, I guess I should say, is very kind of split. No one really knows where it's going. And if we look at the open interest and volume, we can see the open interest really hasn't done much over the past probably 2 to 3 months at this point. It's just kind of been dancing around towards the all-time highs here. We also can look at the volume here on the kind of bottom piece right here. We can see that volume has definitely been bleeding out since kind of like the beginning of July, consistently getting lower kind of day over day. So this is something where, we've kind of seen a lot of people potentially get bored, potentially start to kind of go away from crypto, and we're waiting for that next interesting thing to happen. And I've definitely seen a lot of this in my comment section as well. There's a lot of people who are like, when's something going to happen? Why is it so boring? Nothing's happening. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I totally get that, right? But obviously, we don't necessarily get to choose when the market moves, and we just have to make sure that we are correctly positioned whenever it does make that move. Now, as you could probably see right here, the market is very indecisive. No one really has a great idea in terms of which direction the market is going to be moving. Maybe we see it take off and rocket, and we've seen a whole bunch of kind of accumulation happening in crypto. Maybe it's going to dump, and we're going to see kind of that this was the distribution, this was the top. Who knows? It's almost impossible to say. But if we do see, everything right now is looking super kind of indecisive and evenly split. The only thing that does not look super evenly split, which in my opinion could be indicating a move to the downside here, is the 30-day. The 30-day Bitcoin exchange liquidation map, while the other two are still very evenly split, is showing a bit of a bias to the downside, with about $20 billion of long liquidations, or of long leverages to liquidate if we were to go all the way back down to about 103K. That doesn't mean we have to go all the way back down. Even if we went back to like 112, we'd see about 7 billion in longs liquidated. So there is still plenty of liquidity there. And the thing that's just so bizarre with this is we are technically still in altcoin season. We're at 76. The threshold is 75. So, we may not be in there for much longer depending. We also saw this like random spike up yesterday to 100. Not exactly sure why that happened, because we didn't really see anything too crazy happen yesterday. But we are seeing, that we're kind of close. We're in alt season, but we're kind of dancing in and out of it. So we'll have to see kind of exactly what happens here. We've been in for 11 days. And what we're seeing though is like, we haven't actually really seen this type of like lack of like volatility in the crypto space for I don't even know how long. Usually crypto is always at least doing something. Even if it's just, doing a lot of this, it's at least being volatile while it's doing it, right? Recently, we haven't really seen much of that. It's been pretty stable. It's been frankly pretty boring. And I think that, there's a lot of people who are kind of matching that sentiment. Well, this is not just limited to crypto. There are other places in which this is happening, which is why I say that this is such an important event, because we are also seeing that the VIX Net Short Positions have reached their highest level since September 2022. Well, what does this mean? This essentially means, so the VIX is an index essentially predicting stock market equity volatility. The lower that it is, that means the less or the lower the volatility of the stock market is predicted to be. The higher that it is, the higher the volatility of the stock market is predicted to be. So for example, if you're thinking about like when we would have seen some very high types of some very high VIX levels, we would have seen something like the COVID crash, right? The COVID crash would have absolutely rocketed the VIX index because prices were super, super volatile at that point. And so basically what we're seeing right now is the net short positions on the VIX are essentially meaning that people are expecting the VIX to continue to head to the downside, which is, it's unusual, right? I mean, this is not necessarily something that we've seen very often, and it's definitely at its highest level since back in 2022, like we were discussing. So, there's a lot of going on here through the market that is indicating that just the whole market has kind of been in a lull, and many people aren't really expecting that much volatility. However, as Ted does point out here, historically the opposite has happened of whatever we've seen here. And so with the VIX shorts get like essentially going really, really strong to the net short position, what we could see is, maybe we do see some sort of downward volatility or potentially even upward volatility, right? It is just volatility that VIX is predicting here. So we'll have to see exactly what is going to happen, but this is just kind of market wide. There's kind of a bit of a hinge point and some indecision going on within the crypto market at this point in time that is making it incredibly difficult to know what happens next. I still do think we will see a move to the upside. I still think that there are enough macroeconomic things happening or like cooking on the back burner, so to speak, that we will see that at some point. However, exactly when, I don't know for sure. This is, of course, if I did know for sure, I would not be here talking about YouTube videos. I'd probably just be sitting on an island somewhere with my billions of dollars because I can predict everything that happens in the future. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now with the kind of the market volatility, everything that's happening. Now, I just want to give you an update of a couple of things that have happened recently in some of our crypto positions, as well as some of the coins that we like to talk about on the channel a decent bit. So first off here, we can take a look at our Linea trade. Linea trade is actually close to 300% at this point. It was over 300%, but Linea is pulling back just a little bit at this point. You can see we saw a really strong push to the upside here, hitting about 3.3 cents. We're now down at right around 3.2 cents. This is something that, again, not super surprising because it was way outside of the Bollinger Bands. And at that point in time, it probably would have been overbought on the RSI as well. So Linea is one that I'm just kind of looking to hold on to. This is, like I said, we've already realized profit here. We've already essentially set our stop loss to break even. This trade is a trade that has won. Now it's just kind of a matter of how much will it win. And so we'll keep you updated on the trade. We'll see how it goes. If you are interested, of course, I do have all those links in the description below. If you are interested in getting signed up for a trading platform and trade some of the things that are going on here in the market, feel free to do that if you are interested. Now, moving along, I want to take a couple looks at some of the cryptos that we talk about more frequently. We're going to be talking about Zebec, Aerodrome, and KTA. We will start with KTA today because we saw this little bit of an ascending line. We saw KTA break pretty strongly through it, but then now we've seen a really strong bounce with a major volatility candle here for the KTA chart. So we'll have to see exactly what's going on with KTA and what happens kind of in the next little while, because we saw a higher low get put in, at least up until this point. And we are now maybe looking to put in a higher high, but that would also mean breaking through this $1.20 resistance level that we did recently get rejected by. So we'll have to see kind of exactly what happens here. But right now, KTA is looking pretty strong relative to what we've seen out of a lot of the other cryptos. Let's look at something like Aerodrome. Aerodrome, as you know, has just been absolutely crushing it for us recently. But we are seeing a break through this ascending structure, which is not necessarily the greatest thing to see. We are currently potentially being held up by this level of support right here. As we have mentioned, this kind of like support resistance zone between like 115 and 119 is a very, very strong like area of volatility. So I do think that there is still that possibility that we do get held up here on a support, but you just never know for sure. We have seen a pretty decent sell-off of Aerodrome over the past couple of days. Nothing really too concerning though. This is more just very short-term kind of trading type of analysis. From a long-term, if we go back and we zoom out, you'll see that Aerodrome is still looking really, really strong. If you are a long-term holder of Aerodrome, like myself, you'll see that this is still exactly what we're looking to see. I'm still feeling pretty good about where we're sitting with Aerodrome, though they are breaking, or it is breaking kind of some key support levels that we have seen established. So we just want to make sure and kind of continue to monitor, see how it continues to go. Now, the other one I want to take a look at here is Zebec, because we are seeing something very similar with Zebec as well. So we see, maybe some slightly positive news out of KTA, slightly negative news coming from Zebec and Aerodrome. So Aerodrome, of course, we saw it breaking through key levels of support. Zebec also, unfortunately, much to my dismay, breaking through a really, really strong consolidationary picture that we have seen. This green line is, of course, what we were looking to hold, because it's been holding it basically since late April of 2025. So, seeing a breakout here is potentially bad news. If we do break through this, I might be looking to enter in on a short on Zebec. I'm a huge Zebec fan, and so I would be this is, of course, a short-term play that I'd be looking to make, just because if we broke through this level, it's very realistic that we come back, maybe to 0028, maybe 0023 or 24, even back down here to 002. So, definitely not a great time to be breaking through some supports here. Again, this candle has not closed, so maybe we see a really nice wick up and we get pulled back into this consolidationary structure. That, of course, would be the ideal plan here, but we just don't know, and we have to make sure that we are, we don't know, and we have to make sure that we are essentially keeping track of what we've got going on here. I've messed that up somehow. Anyway, you guys get the picture. We are seeing kind of that breaking through for both Aerodrome and Zebec, kind of really losing some key levels of support. We'll just stay up to date with kind of what goes on with them, and I'll keep you guys updated. But as I've mentioned, the market is in a very, very kind of indecisive and volatile position. So seeing some of these key supports breaking is a little bit harrowing, and it could mean that we could be seeing some major moves to the downside before we see anything coming back up. So we'll just have to see. Of course, nothing is guaranteed, so there's no way to know exactly for sure. I just wanted to kind of share this with you and talk about kind of what we've seen so far to make sure that we're all ready for what potentially comes next. I do still kind of maintain a bias that we will see a kind of a traditional alt season at some point, either later this year or maybe stretching into 2026. But right now, in the short term, looking like that may potentially not be the case. We'll just have to see. Again, the market is very, very indecisive. So I do think, at any point, it could go up or it could go down. So there you go. There's your infinite wisdom for the day here. If you found the information in this video useful, of course, you know what to do. I do appreciate all of the support and help. It does keep me able to continue to do all of this type of stuff for you guys. And I do really appreciate it. I think it's a ton of fun. Also, I'd love to hear your guys' comments. What are your thoughts on, kind of the Linea trade that we've had so far? What are your thoughts on the Aerodrome and Zebec kind of breaking somewhat key supports? Do you think that they'll be able to hold up? Do you think it's a fake out? What do you think we're looking at here? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. So drop those in the comment section below. Thanks everyone so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.